Hello, lovely people. I'm alive. I'm back. I am so sorry. I've been out for like the last 2 weeks. I was very, very ill. My kids keep bringing everything home to me, and I was just laid out for like several days, actually. Laid out so badly that I really couldn't read too much either, which was a really big bummer because I had, pretty good reading plans for November. But anyway, I figure let's just film our wrap up for the month and also what I am going to plan on reading in December. So let's get into what I actually read in November this month, in between being ill and everything else. So the very first thing I finished this month was A Wild Sheep Chase by Haruki Murakami. This one I felt wasn't really as strong as the first two in the trilogy of The Rat. It was kind of nice to see how Murakami kind of wrapped up the story for the two characters, the rat and then the unnamed protagonist that we're kind of following throughout the whole trilogy of The Rat. It had an interesting ending though, and I think it was kind of a little on the spooky side, so it could have easily fallen into a spooky season read, an October read very easily. So I kind of wish I had read it in October, actually. It wasn't terrible. I think I went ahead and gave it like 4 stars on Goodreads. It was not wow, amazing. It wasn't bad. It wasn't fabulous, though. So I am actually looking forward to reading some other Haruki Murakami, which might be a little bit stronger. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm still really, really liking it. I did mark some, pages of just Haruki Murakami isms, just little quotes that I liked, or observations. I love this one. He's walking in the rain in Tokyo, and he says, "Ginkgo leaves brought down by heavy rains had turned the footpaths into dry riverbeds of gold." I just thought, little observations like that about the scenery was really cool. From that point on, there was no hometown for me, nowhere to return to. What a relief. No one to want me, no one to want anything from me. I want that so badly sometimes, especially when you have kids. It's just overwhelming at times, and especially if you're introverted and you have children, it can be kind of hard because they're always asking you for things. And sometimes you just want to get away so badly and not have to do anything. And that would just be bliss. So, anyway, that is A Wild Sheep Chase, Haruki Murakami. It's still good stuff. I'd recommend you read it. Then I read Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. I treated myself a little bit and got myself the cloth-bound edition of the Penguin English Library. And it is a really, really pretty book. I don't know if I'm a big fan of how these hold. The interesting thing though is that instead of having the sticker on the back, some editions do have the sticker on the back. This one actually came with a little slip thing that went around the book, and it had the barcode on it. So you didn't have to take off a sticker, and it didn't leave behind a bunch of residue. I've seen that in other versions of it before. So that was really good. I'm glad they've changed that up. They probably, probably received a bunch of feedback from people that was a problem. So I'm glad to see they did that. I absolutely loved this book. I love it. I read it a long time ago and didn't really remember much about it. I remember I liked it a lot. And this read through again, I enjoyed it even more. I thought it was just a fantastic book. It was so poetic, so beautiful. Louisa May Alcott is a fabulous, fabulous writer. If I could write like her, I'd probably write not millions of books, but I would write a dozen books if I had her mind, if I could write like her. So, you guys, I am going to do a review on Little Women very soon. I just have been ill, like I've said, and I have a lot of little reviews to catch up on, especially for the stuff I read in November. So this was just an excellent book to kind of kick off the cold, snowy, wintry season, and it had just started getting cold when I started reading this, and it's just a perfect book. I may even read it again really, really soon. this may be an annual read for me. Who knows? I don't know exactly yet, but I guarantee you I will read this copy again very soon. Then I picked up House of Leaves. I don't have the physical copy anymore. I had to take it back to the library. It was a very different book, and I was a little bit scared when I approached that book. It was really, really different. So the whole book itself was a puzzle, a labyrinth. It was something you could really put yourself into and try and squeeze out every little bit of information from it if you wanted to, or you could kind of take a step back and read the main story plot lines, if you will, and you know, get the story out of it, get an understanding of what's going on. There is an entire cult fan base around this book. And I understand why, and I understand it's very, very interesting. I didn't think it was necessarily scary. The ideas, the thoughts, the things that the characters did, I didn't really think that much of it was very scary at all. It had a lot of interesting ideas, though. The fear of darkness, the fear of loneliness, the fear of, having to retreat into one's own mind. Just all kinds of strange topics were approached in it. And what intrigued me the most about it as I was reading it was this idea of the labyrinth, the house as the labyrinth, which was reflected in the book as the labyrinth itself. And then there was just, the madness of trying to navigate a labyrinth, to try to understand the story, And it's told in such a strange way. The way it's told is in 3 different narratives that are related. There is the story of the Navidson story. Then there is Zappano, who is doing a critical analysis of the Navidson record. And then there is Johnny Truant, who is a even farther, like, third-party outsider to all of this. And he has stumbled upon Zappano's work. And so now he is going through Zappano's work about the Navidson record and trying to piece it together so that he can, I guess, have it published or share it in some way. And all the while, Johnny Truant also has his own sort of mental problems, mental hang-ups. He has to deal with, his mother, his parents, a lot of abuse, drugs and alcohol and violence, and just that him trying to piece together a story that's already very crazy and doesn't make a lot of sense, and just it is about a man going mad over time. It was a very interesting idea of having like a third party try and piece all of that together while at the same time dealing with their own emotional problems and traumas and mental health issues. So I get it. I understand why it's an interesting book. I understand why there's a cult following to it. I didn't really like it, though. I analyzed it. I read every little bit of it. I wrote down a couple of things that I thought were just interesting ideas. I loved the idea of the labyrinth, and I loved the idea of the book being the labyrinth, and I loved the fact that the book was an art piece. But I felt like the characters were kind of one-dimensional and a little hollow. They didn't really... Mark Z. Daniel Lewinsky, he didn't really put a lot of effort into the characters. I think he just wanted to tell this really interesting story, which is totally fine. It's a fine book. So I think I went ahead and gave that 3 stars on Goodreads. It's a really interesting book. Some people have found it disturbing. I don't know if it's just because I'm a bit more grown up, or, I mean, I wouldn't even put it that far. I'm not that mature. I'm not that old. But I think that if you have gone through some things already, and if you have maybe lost folks, gone through some mental trauma of your own, you know, experienced life at its worst, and then you approach this book and read it, you're just, because you know it's not real. None of it's real. None of it, you know, could possibly be real. And you know, you approach it and you're like, this isn't that scary. I mean, I think that the people have approached it that have gotten like frightened by it and just haven't handled it well, perhaps. They didn't have the experience kind of needed to deal with that sort of mental mental health issues, mental problems, dealing with anxiety, that sort of thing. Maybe they're just not experienced enough in that, and they're actually like really affected by it. So yeah, I gave that 3 stars on Goodreads. It was good. It was interesting. I liked it a lot. But I don't think I'm going to read it anytime soon. And really, I'd only recommend somebody read it if they're interested in something that's really different. You know, just not your average book. So that was House of Leaves. The next book that I have read, Wuthering Heights. Wuthering Heights by Emily Brontë. I was pretty excited to read Wuthering Heights. I had read Jane Eyre last month, and in October, and I was really like, oh, you know, if Charlotte Brontë was this good, and I loved Jane Eyre, I thought it was just fabulous, then Wuthering Heights has got to be equally as good. And, you know, who knows better, because I think that Wuthering Heights is the most famous book by the Brontë sisters. I don't know, Jane Eyre is probably second or first. I think maybe those two maybe go flip back and forth. But I know that Wuthering Heights, I knew of Wuthering Heights before I knew of Jane Eyre. So, I was excited to read it, and then I read it. And then I kind of wonder what the heck was wrong with Emily Brontë. So, probably most people know the story of Wuthering Heights. I don't know if I'm going to do a review on it, but I'll kind of talk about how I felt about it here, I guess. The characters, I felt so sorry and felt so much pity for all of the characters. There was an intense romance, yes. Heathcliff and Catherine the Elder, I'll call her. They had affection for each other. They had true loving affection for each other. They grew up together. You know, they wanted to be together. But Heathcliff, being brought in as an orphan and, you know, never really going to have any prospects, Catherine took it upon herself to make sure that she was going to be married to somebody who would be able to support her. And so she married Edgar Linton. Edgar Linton never did anything to anybody. Heathcliff just hated him because he married Catherine. The boy who grew up with Heathcliff, the way that Hindley treated Heathcliff, there was just so much hatred and just viciousness in this book. And I don't think I've read a book where you understand the hatred and the viciousness, and you understand where it's coming from, because almost all of these characters have had a bad experience, have been abused physically, mentally, abused as children, you know, all of that. There was either some sort of child abuse or neglect going on in all of their lives. And then the cycle is repeated. So I think that that's really what I took away from this book, is that, you know, the cycle of abuse, the cycle of nastiness, the cycle of hatred will go on constantly if it's not broken. I think that is the main takeaway from this book that I got. Poor Heathcliff. I I feel for the guy, but also I cannot abide anybody continuing on a cycle of just child abuse and neglect and using people for your own ends, no matter how bad the situation was. So I don't know. I don't know what I feel about it. There was no happy endings for anybody. Nothing ever seemed any good. The romance that was between, Kathy, who is Catherine's daughter, and Linton, who was Heathcliff's son, was sweet and nice, but even Linton was just a foul little prick sometimes, and I couldn't stand him. There were parts of all of these characters I could not stand. Catherine the Elder was just such an obstinate little brat and spoiled rotten. You just wanted to throttle her. And then her daughter was much better, as far as I'm concerned, better well behaved, but still stubborn as all get out. But anyway, there was probably something to complain about all these characters. I think the one that was the absolute worst off was poor Hareton. He didn't do anything. He was just born. And his father was completely neglectful of him, didn't teach him anything. And then Heathcliff wasn't even any better to him. He kept him in ignorance. It's just everyone taking a bad turn and being awful to him, especially Heathcliff. Just being awful to everybody for no good reason. That's what I get out of this book. Cycle of perpetuated violence and child abuse and neglect, unless that is broken, will continue on and on and on into infinitum. So that is Wuthering Heights. I thought the writing was okay, though. Emily Brontë writes very, very well, and I think she's got another book. I'm pretty sure she does. So I'm probably going to keep reading Brontë sisters material. This hasn't made me shy away from it, but Wuthering Heights is probably not going to be one of my favorites. So, and then we finally got into Smut Corner for this month. However, I was not able to get hold of the book I actually wanted to read, which was A Touch of Malice by Scarlett St. Clair. It's just still not available through my library, so I have to wait for it. So what instead I decided to do, because I had seen offers for Kindle Unlimited for like 99 cents for 3 months, and I thought to myself, you know what? Practically all of the classics that I want to read are on Kindle Unlimited, and also a lot of the romance stuff that I am interested in reading as well is also on Kindle Unlimited. So let's kill two birds with one stone and go ahead and subscribe to Kindle Unlimited for 3 months for 99 cents. And if I hate it, then I'll just cancel it and, figure out something else. So anyway, I did that and I subscribed to Kindle Unlimited. So I've been reading The Blood is Love by Corinne Hale. I am almost done with it. I read Black Sunshine by her. So Black Sunshine was the first one in this, I think it's a trilogy. I don't know what the next one is, though. I'll have to look that up. But the first one was the Black Sunshine, and then this one is The Blood is Love. And they're not bad. They're so-so books. They're not written super great. But, it's smutty. It's pretty good, pretty racy. I do enjoy that. I recommend this to anybody who would like to read romance. But if you're looking for really, really strong, excellent romance, I'd probably point you in a different direction. So that is Smut Corner, and I'll probably pick up another one by Corinne Hale next month as well. I just haven't decided what that is yet. So let's move on to December and what I'm going to be reading in December, because I'm pretty excited about December. I think the first book that I am going to read in December, which is going to be on Kindle, is A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. What better way to get into the holiday season than to read A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens? And I'll probably watch one of the mini-movie adaptations of The Christmas Carol. Scrooge was a really good one. With Bill Murray back in the day. That one was really good. And then, of course, I've always loved A Muppet Christmas Carol. That one's probably my favorite. I just like the Jim Henson puppets and all of that. So I'm going to be doing that. I hope that A Christmas Carol reads really well. I did not enjoy my last Dickens experience, which was Great Expectations. It just kind of bored me. So I'm hoping that A Christmas Carol will be a bit more exciting. Then I will be reading, after that, Edith Wharton's Ethan Frome. I picked up this nice cute little copy, little penguin edition from Half Price Books, I think. And I just couldn't say no to it. It was just so darling. And I like that kind of mint green on the back. Sorry, the dog has got his feet on the bottom of the camera, and he's moved it a couple times already. Get your foot off of it. No. Keep your feet off of it. Bad dog. With the little mint green cover, I just thought it was absolutely adorable. So, looking forward to this. I'm hoping it's really wintry, and from what I have read, it talks a lot about, I think it deals with a lot of topics around solitude, that sort of thing. So that's really interesting to me. So I'm looking forward to Ethan Frome. Then the next book I was going to read, my TBR for December, was Haruki Murakami's Norwegian Wood. I thought maybe I would read a shorter book by him while I'm reading other books kind of during winter. And also this is kind of more of his more famous works, and it's supposed to be really good. So I decided to go ahead and read Norwegian Wood. And I also think that this is probably going to be a good winter read as well. I think that there's a lot of snow and a lot of maybe fall and winter settings in this book. So I'm hoping that will be a really good choice as well. So you guys let me know what you think of that. I also have the Wind Up Bird Chronicle by him. I was thinking later in the month, if I get most everything else read and I have time, then I would get started on the Wind Up Bird Chronicle. But it's kind of taken second place in Haruki Murakami reading to Norwegian Wood for me. Then after that, I was looking at this book called Snow Country by Yasunari Kawabata. It looks really, really appropriate for winter and this time of year when it starts to get really cold, because it is about I think it's the northwestern part of Japan, and there's a lot of snow in it, but I think it's about a geisha that gives herself to, I don't know if he's a nobleman or maybe some kind of a samurai type of character, but it is a novel set in Japan in kind of the northwestern desolate areas of Japan. So I thought that might be really interesting to read. It also won, I think, a Pulitzer, or actually it won a Nobel Prize, that's right. So I'm really interested in that one. And then my anchor book for the rest of the winter, when it's really, really cold, is The Count of Monte Cristo. I have had the worst luck trying to find a physical copy of the Penguin Little Black, the Penguin Black Spine editions of that book that is not completely beat up. It's such a thick book that I think even Barnes & Noble has a hard time keeping the covers clean, keeping the edges neat on those books. I don't know. It's just really weird. Every time I find a copy of it, it's beaten up in some manner. And I don't mind if I beat them up so much. It's just if I'm going to pay money for a book, I don't want it to be really super beat up. Especially if I'm paying full price for it. Now, if I'm buying a used book and, it's got a little bit of bent corners or a little bit of wear on the cover, I don't care about that so much. But I don't like tears. I don't like, missing pages. I don't like lots of bent stuff going on with the book. I don't like them being super beat up. Anyway, I'm having a hard time finding one that's not super beat up. The good thing is, though, with Kindle Unlimited, I can get it on here for free, practically. Actually, yes, I can get it on here for free. And so I'm just going to read and listen to it that way. I went ahead and got on Audible. Audible actually had The Count of Monte Cristo for free. And it's a really good audio recording of it. And I'm very pleased with it. So I will be continuing to listen to The Count of Monte Cristo and reading it. And the editions that is being read in audiobook and on Kindle are the same. So I can at least do that and not have my brain scrambled the whole time. So anyway, those are my reads for December. Like I said, Smut Corner, I'll probably come up with something else. We might do Ice Planet Barbarians if we're going to stay on the theme of the snow, because it's an ice planet full of horny barbarians. What else could you ask for? So dumb. Anyway, the whole concept is so dumb, and I think that's why it makes me laugh so much and just makes me smile. Because every time I see like one of those physical books at the bookstore, I just smile and just shake my head because I just think the concept is so dumb, and I'm sure that Ruby Dixon, which cannot possibly be her name, if it really is her name, you've chosen the right career to spit out smutty books, you know, just write smutty books for the rest of your life because you have the right name for it. So anyway, it's fabulous. I think that's it then. I hope that you guys have enjoyed the video, and I hope that you have I hope you had a wonderful November and a good Thanksgiving if you're in the States. And I hope that you're going to have a wonderful December as well. And I hope that your TBRs are just as, fun, inspiring, get you into the Christmas season as much as possible. I think that would be great. I'm hoping that Kindle Unlimited will be the best gift that I've bought myself for Christmas. So, who knows? I do have one other thing, though. I'll show you real quick. I got myself, just so that I enjoy the Christmas season a bit more, I went ahead and got myself an advent calendar. I've never done an advent calendar before. I'm really, really trying to make Christmas super enjoyable for me and for my kids now. And so I got myself the T Fort advent calendar for the Christmas season. It kind of goes back and forth. Like on one side there'll be some numbers, and then on the other side will be other numbers. So I get to start that in like 2 days, and I'm really excited because I've never done an advent calendar before. But anyway, sorry, the dog has been hitting this stupid camera the whole time because he just cannot get himself to leave me alone, right? Anyway, I think that's it then. Thank you so much, and I hope you guys enjoy your Christmas. Bye.